Good morning, Shmuel Chantal, the running tour guide, together with Dr. Tovia Book. Welcome to Jerusalem. We're here to celebrate Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, together with you. We're going to run around the walls of Jerusalem to see the open gates. The miracle of the fact that we have open gates today. We're going to connect you with its biblical past, but really celebrate this most magnificent period of our history. We've got the ability to connect, to understand, to live, and to appreciate this beautiful place, Yerushalayim.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
What we can see here is a perfect reproduction of Jerusalem on a 1:50 scale. That means that a human being would look like a match head in this model. We're going to focus today on 67 CE and 1967 CE, separated by 1,900 years, two incredibly important dates for the Jewish people. And of course the whole of Jerusalem is dominated by the Temple Mount, which took up 1/7 of the size of Jerusalem, and we're going to go around to take a closer look at that.
Great. Welcome to the Old City. There is no excuse. Each one of us can run around the Old City walls. We're going to do a mini run around here, and just to point out from the model where we are, and then we'll plug you in when we get to the real stuff. So behind us, Jaffa Gate. Even further in the distance, you can of course see the Temple Mount and the Western Wall. But Tovia, why don't we take a run around and let's see the walls of the Old City. Let's head north. Right. Much easier. There's a good breeze.
Good running conditions today.
Okay, you can already start making
out.
We're
already running East Jerusalem. That was fast.
Wow. Welcome to East Jerusalem. You can see the Antonia Fortress coming up.
Golden Gate.
We're at the northeastern corner of the Temple Mount. Oh, and we'll have a quick stop here and look at the gates.
We need a water break.
Quick water break. We are going to take you to the 7 open gates of the Old City, but behind us a closed gate. This is the 8th gate. This is the gate that's beyond Shar HaRachamim, the Mercy Gate or the Golden Gate. It's the entry into Jerusalem from the east, from Mount Olives, and that is the gate that we're all waiting and yearning to open. It's a gate that talks about redemption, Geula. Give us a quick feel as to the importance of this gate. And you know, we're talking about 1967, Yom Yerushalayim. This was a yearning for a return to Jerusalem. What a wait. It was a long wait. And it's as if these gates are opening brick by brick.
The words that everybody remembers from the Six-Day War, religious, secular, people inside Israel, outside Israel, are the famous 3 words, Har Habayit Biadenu. The Temple Mountain is in our hands, once again after 1,900 years. And those words were said from this point overlooking the Temple Mount. And every time Jerusalem's been conquered, whether it's the Babylonians or the Romans, they've always come from the north. It's a lot easier to conquer downhill. And when the paratroopers came in for the first time, they didn't come from the north, rather they came from the Lion's Gate, which is actually on the eastern side of the Old City Wall. So we didn't enter as conquerors, we entered as redeemers, returning Jerusalem to the Jewish people. And very symbolically, we came in from the eastern side where the Gate of Mercy is.
Lest we forget, we're talking about gates, but of course, what is that yearning? It's the hope of the rebuilding of the temple. And of course behind us you can see the model of King Herod's second temple. He who has never seen the building of King Herod has never seen a beautiful thing in his entire lifetime, right?
It's from the Talmud, and it was stunning. Josephus describes it as a white mountain of snow, the marble covered with a golden crown. What a beautiful image.
And there she is in all her glory. Okay, let's move on to the city of David. Okay, briefly, you can see the hill on the south of Jerusalem. It's like a finger sticking down in the direction of the Kidron Valley, and this is the ancient part of the city of David, which is going to take you back to 3,000 years ago, a city that was conquered under the rule of David from the Jebusites. And so much to talk about here, but we're going to take you to the physical remains of the city. Now let's run up Mount Zion.
Yalla.
Let's do it. Dung Gate, Sharashpot, and we've come around again back to Jaffa Gate, but let's now head to the city. We're not going to run there today, we're going to hop in the car, but see you in a bit. The real thing coming up. And welcome folks to Jaffa Gate. We've made it to the Old City. and we're going to do our traditional run around the old city walls for Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day. You can already see the festivities are in the air, and why not go? Let's go see it. Yalla. Proudly South African. Okay, here we are. Jaffa Gate, Shar Yafo, Bab el Khalil, restored by South African jury in 1969.
Go South Africa!
Yeah, we're talking about a period in history, 1967, the Six-Day War. We come back to Jerusalem, the gates open, and that's what we're going to do with you. Run you around the walls, show you the open gates, and we'll give you the punchline in the city of David at Area G. Enjoy it with us. Off we go. Okay folks, gate number 2, new gate, opened up in the 19th century, leads straight into the Christian quarter, and now we drop down to gate number 3 coming up. Gate number 3, Damascus Gate, Shar Shechem,
Bab el Amud.
Bab el Amud. Right, we'll take you to a special spot and a quick stop. Check down here. Tovia, what do we see?
We see here part of the original Roman gate that appears on the Madaba map. This was built by Hadrian for his city Aelia Capitolina, and he actually reused stones from the Second Temple. As you can see over here, the bottom 5 courses here are all got the famous Herodian boss and margin, which is Herod's signature, and they were used to build the Romans' eternal city. But today, of course, the Romans have vanished and the Jews are back.
Great. Let's continue to number 4. Manishma, Boker Tov.
Baruch Hashem, yesh lanu shomim sheshomim al chomot Yerushalayim.
We've got guards on the gates of Jerusalem keeping us safe. Toda Rabah. You can see they are part of the Israeli border police. And changing of the guards happening right now. And we have the guards speaking to the locals. Peace in our times. Please God. Okay, gate number 4 coming up. Herods Gate. Shar Prachim, named after King Herod. Shar Prachim, Flowers Gate. Heading to Mambo number 5 next. Stay tuned. Here we are, the infamous, or should I say famous, gate number 5, Lions Gate. Check out those lions.
He's not lying either.
No, Sultan Barbers, we won't get there, but let's talk about the gate 1967.
Right.
What a gate.
This is the famous gate. You see in all this black and white footage of the paratroopers coming from Mount Scopus behind us to the east, coming towards the old city, and this is the entrance that came in. And you remember that famous footage, they were in such a rush to get in that the first armored carrier actually got stuck in the gate. So the paratroopers climbed over it, went beside it, underneath it.
At 9:45 a.m., Colonel Mota Gore breached Lions Gate, and at 10 a.m., his voice crackled through the army radio, shouting ecstatic words that still ring in Israel's memory.
And it was incredible. They expected to meet huge resistance, but they didn't know that the night before, most of the Jordanian soldiers had already left. That famous footage of the Jewish people returning once again to the holy old city of Jerusalem took place through this gate behind us.
Lots of commotion at this gate, as well as Dung Gate, Sharashport, which we'll be getting to soon. Let's carry on. How about showing them one more gate, closed gate, not an open gate. Look at this. This is a trail taking you through the Muslim cemetery and coming up to a gate. This is a closed gate. This is what I call the 8th gate, next to Mount Olives. Let's take you up there. Wow, we could spend weeks uncovering the essence, the meaning, and the fact that the gate is closed. But we're going to give you a punchline as to what this gate really means. And just to place you quickly, behind us to the east, Mount Olives, Har Zaitim, and here we are facing west. So this is the eastern wall of the Temple Mount, and a gate that is blocked. Why is it blocked?
Well, basically underneath this gate, it sits on top of a Herodian gate that was built during the time of the Second Temple. Some of the Herodian stones are visible below over here, the last two layers. And this is the main gate. The pilgrims came from the east into the temple because it was the shortest gate, shortest entranceway from here all the way up to Har Habayit. And according to Jewish tradition, when the Messiah comes for the first time, the people who will be resurrected first are those who have the merit and honor to be buried over here on the Mount of Olives, which is the oldest continuous cemetery all the way from the First Temple, Second Temple period up to great leaders such as Menachem Begin. It's still very much in use. Okay folks, over here we can see where Herod added on a whole southern part of the Temple Mount very clearly. You can see the stones here from the Hasmonean Temple, this Hasmonean Second Temple, and then there's a straight line, it's called the Seam. And this is where Herod added on. You can even see part of an arch, which was part of an overpass. There's one we're going to see on Robertson's Arch, and this is the second overpass that will allow pilgrims who are coming from the east, from the Parthian Empire, to cross over the bridge onto the Temple Mount. So this is very clearly a Herodian addition. That's all for now, folks.
Just to get a sense of the size of this retaining wall, a real incredible structure. Today, can you imagine what it was like 2,000 years ago to be standing next to these walls?
Wow.
Okay, welcome to the city of David. We take you to a special spot called Area G. Great timing, there's a hive of activity here with youth coming to visit the spot. So we've taken you off the beaten track from the gates down into ancient Jerusalem. Welcome to the city of David. Look at these retaining walls. Boy, oh boy, lots to tell here. I'm going to get Tovia to share a little bit of the meaning of this place, and especially connecting it with Yom Yerushalayim, this incredible day. Bring it on.
In the shade.
Okay, let's head to the shade then. Okay, before I hand you over to Tovia, who's relaxing in the shade for a little bit, I'm going to bring you into the picture. This retaining wall is really showing us a window into a period of history just before the destruction of the temple, 586 BCE, but we are looking at ruins from the First Temple period. This hill was conquered under the rule of King David and settled around about 3,000 years ago, and so much has been excavated, so many signs are pointing to that period, and you can choose a subject of history to talk about here, but seeing that we are focused on Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, a day when Jerusalem was liberated, the 6th of June 1967, really changed world history, not only for the locals here in Jerusalem, but anybody that was yearning to connect with the city over millennia can now discuss this at the site, bringing us back to the beginning. So, Tovia, let's do this.
Okay, before we were back at the model where we saw a model of Jerusalem from 2,000 years ago, but what we're looking at right behind is Jerusalem from 3,000 years ago. Now, quite often when I come with groups to Israel, they come and they see a pile of stones and they go, it's just everywhere we go, it's like same stones, different place. And it's true, if you want to see impressive archaeological remains that look amazing, don't go to Israel. Go to Greece and see the Parthenon, go to Rome and see the Colosseum, go to Egypt and see the pyramids. Now, whilst this might not look physically impressive, for us as Jews, this is not just a history lesson, this is our story. These very stones saw the famous King David put these stones into place 3,000 years ago. And let us not forget, for 1 millennia, that's 1,000 years, 2 temples stood just to the north of us over here on Mount Moriah. The First Temple period, which is these remains are from behind us, was of course started with Solomon, David's son, who built just to the north on Mount Moriah the temple itself on the hill that his father had bought from Onad the Jebusite. Now, what was amazing is after the Six-Day War, when the eastern part of Jerusalem was returned to the Jewish people, we had a huge amount of opportunities to finally uncover our past. As the Mishnah teaches us, know where we come from and know where we're going to. We didn't just appear in the land because of the Holocaust, as some people say. Rather, we have roots deeply entrenched in the land. And it's very symbolic that just after the Six-Day War, this area known as Shetach G, or Area G, was excavated by the famous archaeologist Yigal Shiloh, and he only had a very small piece where he could actually dig up clear land where there was no houses to destroy, and this is where he dug, and what he found gives solid proof to our roots deeply entrenched in this very land, and also, amongst other things, proved beyond any doubt the veracity and truth of the Tanakh, of the Bible itself. So let's see what we can see. We can see a very steep structure over here behind us. It goes up and it's very, very tall, made of massive monumental blocks. And this is the highest point of the city. And the book of Samuel says that King David built his palace on the highest point of the city. Now what is amazing is 500 years later, to fast forward to 586, the book of Kings talks about the destruction of Jerusalem, and it talks about the Jerusalem being burnt to the ground. And when Yigal Shiloh was excavated here in 1967 after the Six-Day War, he found a massive, massive layer of soot about this thick on the ground. And when it was carbon dated to 586, to that very destruction. In other words, anything below that layer of soot was from the time of the actual Bible, to Kufat Tanakh. And he found in the soot charred Babylonian and Israelite arrowheads, which is a mute testimony to the ferocity of the final battle of Jerusalem. So anything below was below 586, solid. In this room behind me over here, with the four pillars, known as the four-pillared room, a typical Israelite house, was very close to the king's palace, and therefore whatever was in that room must have been somehow connected to the palace. And underneath all of this soot, he found a whole room full of very, very small clay seals about this big, known as bulai. And they had them on the inscriptions in Hebrew, not the Hebrew that we read today, but in biblical Paleo-Hebrew. And they were names of their owners who'd sealed them with their signet rings, and the same fire that had destroyed whatever scrolls or documents which they sealed had hardened the clay. So obviously, if you're a Jewish archaeologist excavating on a site of the Bible, you will be looking for names that appear in the Bible itself. And incredibly, I just want to show you two of the seals that were found. There's this seal over here. Again, the real seal's about the size of my fingernail. But amazing, you can see there's a Hebrew inscription in ancient Hebrew, and what it says on it is Gemariyahu ben Shaphan, Shin Pei Nun, Shaphan in Paleo Hebrew. Now what is amazing about that is this is a name of someone who actually appears in the Bible, in the book of Kings. Gemar ben Shaphan was a very minor character in the book of Kings, who was one of the last king of Judah, Tzidkiyahu's trusted servants. If such a minor character appears in archaeologically solid time capsule, it really gives testimony to the accuracy and truth of the book of Kings. Finally, look at this thing over here. It's a square with a hole in the middle. Now we know that Israel is the Holy Land, but the question is, what is that hole over there? Believe it or not, my friends, this is the remains of a toilet. Now, it might seem like I'm just talking about trivia, but this is very, very important to know how high in advance the status was of the people who had their own toilet over here next to their house. It's probably the scribe's house, the royal scribe's house. And I want to conclude with an anecdote of the famous Victorian Prime Minister, Sir Benjamin Disraeli. As we all know, he was born a Jew and baptized to Christianity as a bar mitzvah present by his father, who didn't want to pay the 13 years of past dues to the Bevis Mark synagogue, so his bar mitzvah present became baptism. And many years later, he became the Prime Minister of England. And even though he was nominally a Christian, he was always very proud of his Jewish roots. Whenever something was going on in the Parliament and the insults were flying, it was just a matter of time before someone called him a dirty Jew. And once he responded, and this relates to this level of civilization here, he said the following: when the Right Honourable of the Opposition's ancestors were living in mud caves in an unknown island, mine was serving as priests in the Temple of Solomon. And this site over here shows us we have a lot to be proud of. It's all death and destruction, rather beauty, life, dancing and singing. We are the only people that can come back to our land, dig down and find 3,000 years of history, all the way back to King David. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Alrighty then. Gate number 6. Oh, and perfect timing. Down gate, Shara Sport. You can see a female unit from the army. Here we are. We've entered the old city, just like the Jerusalem Brigade in 1967. Celebrations begin. Okay folks, we're coming up to our last gate, the final gate for today, the 7th open gate, Zion Gate, Shar Zion. Let's have a quick stop here, Tovia, quick stop. Okay, stop the watch. Here we are. Look at the size of this gate, and it is littered with bullet holes from the Independence War, 1948, when Jerusalem was under siege, and these are the battles from the 1948 war. And we'll talk about this at the end of our vlog, how the paratroopers cried in 1967 when we finally liberated Jerusalem and broke through these walls and brought back Jerusalem. So I hope you enjoyed that little run around, just to give you a feel of the gates of the old city, a little bit of history in between. And you know, we have 7 open gates that lead into our head, our 2 eyes, our 2 nostrils, our mouth and our 2 ears. Open gates, keep those gates clean, allow good things in, guard your mouth, guard your eyes, listen to good things, smell good things, and speak good words, and bring back the sanctity of Jerusalem with the fact that we have 7 open gates that we now can guard. I mean, the capital of the state of Israel, Jerusalem, the eternal.
Amen.
Amen. So we'll see you down at the Western Wall, where we'll close our vlog and speak about how the paratroopers cried. Let's go. And here's a real Yom Yerushalayim Jerusalem Day scene. Yom Yerushalayim Sameach. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai. The city is alive, and there is a prophecy in the book of Zechariah, Tuvia. I think this is a good time to mention one prophecy. We haven't mentioned a prophecy today. Let me stop my watch. How about talk about the prophecy of a time when you will see children playing on the streets of Jerusalem. And look at that. That was just a bunch of them right there.
Our old days are used as new. Once again, the old people walk through the streets of Jerusalem, and the young people run on her streets, just as a prophecy foretold.
The prophecy of Zechariah. Check it out above. Jerusalem Spring, natural. What a way to cool off at the end. Great place for the kids to swim. Shalom. Peace from Jerusalem, the center of the world, the center of Africa, Europe and Asia. 3-clove map of Jerusalem under the globe. Woo! Yerushalayim. Okay, we've arrived to the Western Wall. Excuse the scaffolding, they're busy doing renovations on the Western Wall, but we're here to point out these stones lying on the road from the Second Temple period. Why are they lying here? As if they haven't moved since that time. Have they moved since that time?
That's because they haven't moved.
That's right.
When I was growing up in the UK and in South Africa, when it was Tisha B'Av, it was very difficult to relate to. I remember just going to the shul and mumbling some prayers, but couldn't really relate to it. But what you can see here, my friends, is Tisha B'Av in the year 70, frozen in time. These are the massive stones from the Second Temple's western retaining wall. They were thrown onto the street by the Roman 10th Legion on Tisha B'Av in the year 70 CE, and here they have remained frozen in time. So when you see this, you can really picture Tisha B'Av. This is Tisha B'Av in 3 dimensions.
From Tisha B'Av to Yom Yerushalayim, we would not have seen these stones unless 1967 happened. when Jerusalem was liberated, and we've just come through the gate, Dung Gate, the Jerusalem Brigade broke through, Lions Gate, the paratroopers came in, they liberated the Western Wall, and post that period, the diggings began, and archaeologists slowly made their way until they revealed these stones lying here from its destruction. So from destruction to renovation, to rebuilding, to see these scaffoldings is actually a good sight, because we're yearning for even more. We've heard the sounds of construction. These are all signs of a rebuilding, of a returning, which was that time. Yom Yerushalayim brought us back, and here we are, and the paratroopers cried.
And the amazing thing here, before we talk about the paratroopers' cry, is amongst all of these stones, the archaeologists found, believe it or not, in the week of Tisha B'Av in 1969, a pillar, very much similar to the pillars we see behind us, but this pillar had a Latin inscription on. It was a Roman victory pillar that's now the entrance to the Davidson site, which we are right now, and on it is inscribed the name Vespasian, Imperial Caesar Vespasian, the 10th Roman Legion, LEXXRFR, and this was a victory column when the Romans proudly erected it on top of the ruins of the temple, and a Jewish archaeologist 1,900 years later, in the week of Tisha B'Av, found this column that had been destroyed and in ruins, just like the Roman Empire itself, but the Jewish people came back. And amongst the Jews who came back were those paratroopers of 1967. Now, with those paratroopers, one of them was a guy called Chaim Guri, who later on went to be a renowned poet in the state of Israel. And he was with them, he was embedded in them, he was one of these paratroopers. And an amazing thing happened. These battle-hardened young boys of 19 ran to the wall, and they'd been in firefights for days. They'd seen comrades fall. They ran through the alleyways without showing the emotion. The emotion hit them once they touched the stones of the wall. There was a reporter who was with them from Kol Yisrael, and I remember hearing the recording, and he says on the recording in Hebrew, "Eneni Adam Dati, aval ani nogea bavnei hakotel." I'm not a religious man, but I'm touching the stones of the wall. And you could hear his voice cracking with emotion. It was the one moment that everybody remembers. Just after the 6-Day War, a book was written called The Seventh Day, which is soldiers' reflections on the war. And everyone but everybody remembers exactly where they were when they heard the words, Har Habayit Bi'adenu. And again, as soon as these paratroopers came to the wall, which back then didn't have a huge plaza in front of it, the part you see behind me was still underground, but the western wall over there, this thin narrow alleyway, that's when they started to cry. And Chaim Guri wrote a poem called Tzanchanim Bochim, the paratroopers cry. And part of the poem starts off with, this wall has seen Caesars rise and Caesars fall. This wall has felt the petition of mourning women between its stone. This wall has seen so much, yet never before has this wall seen paratroopers cry. And he describes the moment how they ran through the alleyways like the fiery chariots of Elijah, looking for the wall, and with soot-covered faces, battle-hardened, weary, knowing no rest, they finally touched the wall, and then they started to cry. But that crying turned into song. Hazorim bedima barina yiktsaru. Those that sow in tears will reap in joy. And why is it that they danced? Why is it they felt this weight? Perhaps the poem ends, perhaps because these young boys of 19, born with the state of Israel, carry on their shoulders 2,000 years. Welcome back home. Chag Yom Yerushalayim Sameach.
And may the weight on our shoulders be lifted as we reveal the glory of Jerusalem step by step, day by day, year after year. And may we all see the coming of our redemption and a rebuilt Jerusalem with a city that is knit together from all sides, and that each one of you play a part in its story and its future. We're wishing you again a Chag Sameach. Come and visit us, the city of hope, the city of light.
Chazak u'baruch.
Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek.
Jerusalem, ikhayalami, ilondoloze, uhambe nami, zungangishilana. Jerusalem.